welcome to round 10 of Grand Prix Charleston. Looks like we're going to have Brad Nelson face off against Florian Koch. Brad Nelson on the left-hand side of your screen, Florian on the right-hand side of your screen. I'm Ben Swartz, joined here in the booth by Marshall Sutcliffe. Hi, Marshall.
Hey, this should be a good one. We've got a chance to see Brad's deck not only in his hands. We also saw Raptor play it yesterday, Josh Hutter-Layton, in impressive fashion in the feature match area with what Sam Black described as two absolutely perfect nut draws against him.
Yeah.
And it's hard to argue. We saw a turn 3 Angel of Serenity. Yes, you heard that right. Turn 3 Angel.
Turn 1 Arbor Elf. Turn 2 Somberwald Sage.
Yeah.
Turn 3 Angel of Serenity.
Yeah, it was insane. And we also saw, I believe, a turn 4 on Burial Rites, or maybe it's turn 4 or turn 5 on Burial Rites.
Turn 4.
Yeah, on a Crater Hoof Behemoth.
Through Athalia.
Through Athalia, and also while having like a bunch of Lingering Souls tokens up. And that was a Crater Hoof Behemoth. And as we like to say, he got hoofed.
Hoof, there it is now trending on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah, that's Brad's sort of battle cry for this deck. Hoof, there it is. I like it.
It looks like Brad is, or Florian is taking a mulligan here. Oh no, both players haven't drawn their opening hands.
No, I think you were right. That's 6 for Brad, I believe.
Oh, they're both taking a mulligan.
Yeah, I think they've both mulled.
Looks like both players are content with their hands.
What is that in Brad's hand? That must... Oh, I think the name... Is this the right match? I don't think this is the right match. Because that's not Brad's hands.
Yeah, that is true.
I think we might be seeing the John Bolding versus Peter Kelly match here, because this is not what we were thinking.
There we go.
Looks like we've moved over. All right, I think this is the correct match.
Yeah, that's Brad. And we get a look at the players' deck lists. Let's take a look at Florian's deck. We've seen Brad's deck already multiple times so far this tournament. It looks like Florian is playing the blue-white tempo deck. We've seen quite a bit of this tournament. The deck that powers out powerful spells at the end of their opponent's turn and tries to finish them off with a Rune Chanter's Pike and Restoration Angel, Snapcaster Mage, Augur of Bolas.
The grindiest.
Old news.
Now, one of the things that I will note here is that Florian does have 3 Supreme Verdict in his sideboard. That's going to be important as we move on to game 2 and 3. The question is, can Brad get the win in game 1 here when he doesn't even have to worry about things like that? Because, the way I see it, Brad's deck just does much, much more powerful things than Florian. So Florian is going to have to be really selective about what he wants to counterspell. If he gets to dissipate like an Unburial Rites or something, that'll be a big game. I see that Florian also does not have any Rest in Peace in his sideboard.
Yeah, none. That's really important. He's got a Race instead, but that's presumably for Curse of Death's Hold.
I guess.
But
what else could it be? Like for his opponent's Rest in Peace, it does actually get him pretty good. That's the thing, is that his deck can't really afford to run Rest in Peace anyway, because it just hoses him either as much or more than it would his opponent.
So play has started, and Brad is going to start things off with a Mulch on turn 2, revealing Temple Garden, Somberwald Sage, Tracker's Instinct, and a second Somberwald Sage. So he'll get that Temple Garden into his hand, put those creatures in the Tracker's Instinct into the graveyard, and it does not look like he has a blue source to flash back that Tracker's Instinct. Does Florian have anything?
BDM smiles at home at the Mulch being resolved.
Cavern of Souls comes down. Let's see what it names. I assume it's going to be Angel or Wizard.
He has ripped off an extremely small piece of paper.
Looks like Wizard.
Very likely. Seems to be the default setting for that.
Another Mulch from Brad. This time revealing Arbor Elf, Lingering Souls, Hallowed Fountain, and a Forest.
Confirmed Wizard. Okay. Makes sense. It won't matter against Brad, as Brad's not running any counters, but he can still make any color he wants to cast Wizard spells with that Cavern, so it is acting as mana fixing for him here.
Well, he's got another Cavern. This time I assume he's going to name Angel. Yep, Angel.
Well, he's got good mana now, thanks to Cavern.
He Cannot cast a Geist of St. Traff, though.
So what are we looking at here as far as the game plan for Brad? Is he looking to have an explosive start, or is he just looking to kind of build up an army and then try to hoof him?
I think he's going to try grinding his opponent out. I mean,
Okay.
he's going to start off here with Lingering Souls Flashback to put some tokens into play, and then likely cast a Tracker's Instinct. So continuing to add threats to the board while building up his graveyard to be this powerful thing. So if at any point Florian taps out, he can try to hoof him.
Now, what about for Florian? What is his game plan here? Is he looking to? I mean, he's not. He's not in a position where he can try to race or something like that. His deck doesn't really do that. So, is he just going to try to counter key spells from Brad?
Yeah. What Florian is, I assume, going to try to do is build up an advantage, some card advantage, and then try to punch through on one crucial turn with like a Rune Chanter's Pike and a Flyer.
Okay.
Or a couple crucial turns.
So Florian is in an interesting position then, because what Brad can do is he can play two different ways. His deck hits from two very distinct angles. He can just build up a lot of creatures and use Gavany Township to make them huge and say, look, you've got to deal with all my creatures.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what he's doing now, is just dumping his hand on the
Deathrite
table.
Shaman, Somberwald Sage, and Arbor Elf.
That's right. And now he doesn't have the Township on the board yet, but he could have one in his hand, and if he doesn't, he can always draw it. Now, the other angle he hits from is just having a bunch of creatures like this and then hoofing. Creator Hoof Behemoth for just one big hit.
Yeah, I mean,
it feels like Brad's game plan is much better served taking the Gavany Township route, because Florian's deck just isn't set up to beat 5 or 6 creatures in game 1.
Yeah.
Like, he can start on summoning stuff, but like he's going to fall behind that race pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, if you're 1-for-1ing, you're getting one half of a card from one of your cards, because Lingering Souls carries 2 tokens. But Brad here is going to cast.
This looks like an angel
Hoof
or a hoof. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's in
8.
play.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah. All right, so Creator Hoof Beneath. This is a huge. He's looking down at it as Brad poises for the big hits, and that should be game right there if Florian can't do anything about this. Yeah, and Florian just puts his hand in the air and says, "You hoofed me, bro." Yeah. Wow.
Insane.
That was interesting. You know, Brad just said, well, you know what? If he doesn't have a counter, I just win right here. And if he does, then so be it.
Then it goes to my graveyard, and I can unburial right till
unless it gets dissipated, but yeah.
So we'll take a quick look at John Building versus Peter Kelly.
So these are the 2 undefeated decks in the tournament.
Wow.
And, hey, there's finally an aggressive deck. Yeah. We haven't had one on camera. You know, a true aggro deck. It looks like probably Black-Red Zombies, although right now we're looking at a Knight of Infamy. And he's facing down... What is going on here?
That's a transformed Mayor of Averbrook.
Yeah, so it's a Howlpack Alpha.
Yeah.
And a friend. Okay. Ooh, remember we talked about this yesterday?
Jeez.
Every dog has his day.
That's Hellrider.
Oh, it's a Hellrider. Fine. All right, so Hellrider battles. Triggers go on the stack.
So it'll become a 4/4 and deal. A 5/5 and deal 1 point of damage. So it's going to be 6 damage if Peter Kelly chooses not to block.
And if he does, he's going to lose both of his creatures. Now, it does look like John is tapped out.
Yep.
So that is an option, although he would still be facing down 2 Knights of Infamy.
Yeah, and it looks like Peter's going to double block. And they'll trade. Peter still takes one.
Wolf down.
And John passes the turn back to Peter.
All right, so what is Peter's follow-up play is really the question. Does he have a way to reestablish a good board position here? It looks like John is out of cards.
Yeah, I mean,
which would make something like a second Mayor of Averbrook, which I see in his hand, pretty enticing, as if John just draws like a land or something, he can get it transformed. Looks like he's done that. I see a Rancor as well. Is he going to
immediately Rancor it up?
That would be interesting.
No.
I see that it would do a whole lot.
Doom Traveler instead.
Now, do you Rancor up the Doom Traveler? It seems like pretty low risk.
I mean, you might want to use his Rancor now because John's tapped out. He can't have a response to kill one of the creatures to make him lose the Rancor.
He's doing some math. We don't have life totals. All right, he's going to Rancor up actually his Mayor because the Mayor will actually be able to attack if John doesn't do anything. Can't cast a spell.
Turn comes back to John. He draws his card for the turn.
This is kind of a cool matchup, actually.
Yeah.
Two similar decks, except for that one of them's green-white and one of them's black-red.
John's got to hope to have gotten a spell.
Oh, he just traded it off.
Yeah.
And he does have a spell. It's a Gravecrawler. Huh. Peter must be at pretty low life total. He seems to be just trying really hard to conserve his life.
Rancor on the Doom Traveler. Doom Traveler comes in.
But it just gets blocked. It has protection from white. Is that what he wanted to happen?
I'm not sure, but he will get the 1/1 Spirit Token. Get
and
back
then he's
the
just
Rancor.
going to Rancor that up too. All right, well, it looks like that's what he wanted to happen.
So Peter's on 2 life.
Ah, okay. So that was why he actually was representing lethal with that Spirit Token.
I think John's on 12 life.
Oh, it was John that was on 12?
Yeah. I'm not
it's
sure.
It's hard to tell
exactly.
because of the thing.
That was a quick look. There you get a.
So John just said, "Okay, on my turn, I'm going to attack you with my Knight of Infamy. You can't block it." Okay, fair enough.
A look at the feature match area. We have Brian Easton facing off against Sam Black, Brian Kibler facing off against Todd Anderson, and of course Brad Nelson playing against Florian Koch. And there you get a look at the players who are still playing in day 2. A smaller day 2 here in Charleston. 81 players made it in. Everybody battling for their piece of the prize pool.
You can see Jackie Lee.
You can see Owen Turnwald.
There's Owen.
But they'll be battling all day today until we crown a champion. Back.
All right, back for game 2 here with
Nelson.
Brad Nelson versus Florian Koch, and they are off. Slow start for both, just tap lands. A rewind off the top for Florian.
So this matchup changes quite a bit after sideboard, right, Marshall?
It certainly does. We've the 3 supreme verdicts coming from Florian's sideboard are going to be huge in this matchup, and it's going to really change the way that Brad has to play. He's also going to be expecting that those are on the way, and Brad will adjust accordingly. He can't make the same type of plays that, okay, he just picked up a Craterhoof Behemoth.
Yep, off of a Tracker's Instinct, as well as milling Lingering Souls.
Yeah. Now, Brad's going to know, though, that he can't just commit a whole bunch of things to the board and just get wrathed.
Right.
So he's going to have to play a bit differently.
And he's probably assuming that there's some sort of graveyard removal coming out of Florian's deck, but we know that that's not the case.
Yeah, it's actually not true.
Florian has added 2 Augur of Bosses to the board. The first one whiffed. Now he's looking at the second one. Does he want to take a Rewind or a Thought Scour? That's what he's thinking between. Or an Unsummon. So he goes ahead and takes Unsummon.
Sweet old school Unsummon.
And passes the turn back to Brad. Brad here is going to spend no time and flashback Lingering Souls to get 2 1/1 Flying Spirit tokens into play. Play Howled Fountain tapped and pass the turn back to Florian.
Florian's got a Thought Scour.
Brad joked about removing the token.
Thought it was going to get unsummoned.
Yeah, that seems like not a powerful play for Florian. It's like Tavern Swindler. Your opponent attacks with it, and you pull out a coin. Heads or tails? On Florian's turn, end of turn, he casts Thought Scour. And is going to attack in there with his 2 Augur of Bolosses. Can't imagine Brad's blocking here. So he's going to fall to 17 life, I believe. And Florian's going to pass with 4 mana up, representing a Rewind. Loxodon Smiter comes down for Brad. That's something we've seen out of his sideboard, something we've seen him board in all day, or all weekend, all day yesterday, as an answer to these control decks that have a lot of counter magic.
So this is a pretty reasonable amount of pressure here for Brad. He can start profitably attacking on the ground and in the air, and he is going to be able to force Florian's hand at some point here. He's going to be taking 6 damage, if not.
If not more.
If not more.
But Brad just passes the turn back. He doesn't want to attack him with his spirit tokens. Florian also says draw go.
Yeah, he didn't do anything on Brad's end step, which is a little bit uncharacteristic for Florian's deck. And then he just plays land and says go. Now, Brad knows that he has that unsummon in hand still. I think that's the only card that Brad actually knows about. Maybe not. There are 2 augurs. No, I think the other one hit that Thought Scour, so.
Yeah, so I don't think... No, the first one whiffed. The first augur whiffed.
Oh, it whiffed.
Yeah, got no cards. It was turn 2. So now Brad's got to think something's up, right?
I mean, he knows about the unsummon, but yeah.
He's got a Restoration Angel in his hand. He's got Craterhoof Behemoth in his hand.
Restoration Angel is reasonable against unsummon in that it means you don't have to spend the mana again, which is nice.
Yeah, but if he unsummons one of the spirit tokens, it's
yeah, but irrelevant. I think Brad's okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Brad, I'd be happy if my opponent used 1 card for half of 1/4 of one of my cards.
A quarter of a card, yeah. And in this case, it was like a free one too.
Yeah,
and he milled it, so yeah.
From Tracker's Instinct.
Right. But it looks like Florian just decided to chump block with his augur.
Yep. Brad gets in for 2, dropping Florian down to 18.
And Brad is deciding what he wants to do. He's got definitely some decisions to make here. He does have that Restoration Angel. He can flash that in. Not getting a ton of value from it. It would just be a 3/4 flyer. He's naming something, probably Beast. Yeah, and he does in fact name Beast, and he's going to cast a Thrag Tusk, which of course is going to resolve.
Brad's going to go to 22 life and pass it back.
All right, so, you know, he feels like in a reasonable position against Supreme Verdict, although Florian says, well, I'm going to do a Sphinx's Revelation for 2 here.
A mini Sphinx's Revelation.
Yeah.
Compared to what we've seen yesterday.
We saw one for 10.
I think we saw one for more than 10. But
did we?
Those Bant games can get out of hand.
They are
right?
insane, yeah. Especially because a lot of those Bant lists are running Farseek as well, so they're actively ramping their mana as well. All right.
Another Augur of Bolas for Florian, peeling 3 cards off the top, revealing an Essence Scatter.
That's good information for Brad Nelson to know there.
It won't do too much if Brad wants to cast another Beast, another Thrag Tusk, but Florian will pass it back. But one thing we noticed yesterday that was important is Craterhoof Behemoth is also a beast.
It is indeed. And when you showed me that, I was not aware, and that's pretty insane. Right now, though, Nelson's sitting on just 5 lands, so he's quite a ways away from hoofing him, but he's going to just battle with all of his creatures here, and Florian is basically left to dig for a Supreme Verdict, which he hasn't been able to find yet.
So Florian double chump blocked there?
He just double chump blocked. He needs to find a way to sweep the board here, and I don't think he has one in his hand yet.
And he's going to Tracker's Instinct. Flashback.
Is it a Tracker's Instinct? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And get.
Because he'd love to pick up
Shaman.
that Gavney Township if it was a mulch.
Yeah, but I mean, it's. He wants one more land, which I think he has, to be able to cast that Craterhoof Behemoth next turn, which will take Florian out unless Florian has a Supreme Verdict this turn.
Which I don't believe he has in his hand.
Florian's going to start the Moorland Haunt engine by removing an Augur of Bolas from his graveyard, putting a 1/1 Spirit token into play.
All right, he's drawn a Glacial Fortress. That is not the card he needs. I see that he's still got the Unsummon, Hollowed Fountain. You can't quite see what else he has there, but he obviously doesn't have the Wrath effect that he really wanted there.
Florian passes it back.
And what did Brad do?
He's going to cast Grizzly Salvage.
Okay. He sees a Grotto, a Temple Garden, a Lingering Souls. That is an Avacyn's Pilgrim
Grizzly
and
Salvage
an Arbor
is
Elf.
so good with Lingering Souls.
It's sweet.
He's going to get that Temple Garden.
And he's going to untap.
Does he want to just go for the hoof right now? Let's see. He knows about the unsummon, right?
He does indeed.
Florian's on 18 life, so he unsummons the Thragtusk. No.
Well, Crater Hoof costs 8.
Oh, sorry, I miscounted.
Yeah, he's got 6 right now, but he can get up to 7. All right, I think did Florian just target a Thought Scour? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the only instant or sorcery in his graveyard besides the Sphinx's Revelation. Casting Sphinx's Revelation for 0 seems a little suboptimal. Post-combat, another Tracker's Instinct for Brad, revealing 4 non-creature cards. They'll all go to the graveyard. He's got 2 hoofs in his hand.
He does.
Both of them will be uncounterable.
Does he not have a land drop, though? Where's his land?
No, he's got the Temple Garden from the Grizzly Salvage.
Right, so does he have another one?
Not seeing it.
He plays this one untapped.
Spend 1 mana, but he has a Deathrite Shaman.
And that does, and there's plenty of lands in his graveyard, so that if he doesn't hit that land drop, he can do it either way.
Oh, he did choose Sphinx's Revelation for 1.
We must have for 2. We must have just missed a couple of mana off camera.
Okay. Yeah.
I see on the with his left hand there, he's got a couple 2 mana as well. All right, that's an Augur of Bolas. That does let him dig.
There's a Supreme Verdict in Florian's hand, though.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. He must have just drawn one off of that Sphinx's Revelation. So that would leave Brad Nelson with just the lone beast token, and then Brad could still hoof him for 7, 8, 9, for 11?
Yeah.
So he can still apply massive amounts of pressure here.
I mean, Brad still needs to draw land because that Deathrite Shaman is going to hit the bin.
Dead. Okay, sure. So Florian's doing a bunch of thinking, but we know he's going to Supreme Verdict.
So this just in from Grand Prix Bochum. Not saying you should be watching their stream. This stream's very exciting as we see a Supreme Verdict come down for Florian Koch. But Martin Juza seems to be going into top 8, finishing the Swiss with a 13-2 record.
It does look like Juza is in.
After that Supreme Verdict, another Augur of Bolas is going to come down for Florian. And he's going to reveal an unsummon. Which is pretty important.
Pretty important here.
Although Brad can just rebuild his army. We see him first cast a Restoration Angel. Is that going to resolve? He knows there's an Essence Scatter in Florian's hand.
Now, we don't know. I think, does Florian have more than just that one island up? We can't see it because it's off camera a bit. He does, because he did play Essence Scatter, so he must have 2 lands. Now, does he have another one in hand, though?
Or another land, you mean, in play?
Yeah, another land in play, yeah. All right, so Brad says, all right, hit you for 3 up, puts you to 15.
I'm going to cast Lingering Souls with Flashback, presumably. Oh, first Thragtusk. Thragtusk puts Brad to...
And he's got a Lingering Souls in there somewhere to flashback as well.
Yep. Brad goes to 25, gets a 5/3 Thragtusk, 2/1/1 Spirit tokens to go along with his 3/3 Beast token. Florian needs, little does he know, he needs another Supreme Verdict here, or else Brad will continue to be undefeated at Grand Prix Charleston. So Florian's turn, thinking over how he can withstand the army of Brad Nelson's.
Brad is all set to hoof him.
Yep. He needs just 1 more land.
Yeah, he's got the board state for it, and also he just has a superior board state anyway right now.
Yeah.
Now, Florian has a couple of unsummons, so he can take out some tokens. But even then, getting hoofed at this point, just even if there's only a couple of creatures left, would be pretty bad. Play a Runechanter's Pike and then equip it to my Augur.
Okay. That will make the Augur 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3.
5, I think. Those are...
There's 2 Thought Scours, 1 Essence Scatter, 1 Supreme Verdict, and then I think that middle card.
Yeah, so that's 5.
Yeah.
That's his graveyard that he's adjusting there. Yeah. Those aren't in play or anything.
Goes back to Brad's turn.
And he looks like he's going to lead off by tapping his Cavernous Soul, so it doesn't look like he's hit that land to hoof him.
Yeah, he drew a Mulch this turn.
Yeah, so he's got 2 Craterhoof Behemoths in hand. He needs to get to 8 mana to be able to start resolving them. But they're going to be really, really... I mean, it's good by itself.
Yeah, 6/6 haste trample.
Yeah, that's going to do pretty good work. As long as the creatures are bigger than whatever Florian has with his Augur. Now we know that and Brad knows as well that he's got at least 1 unsummon in hand, and he can make his Augur of Bolas bigger at instant speed while reducing however big the bonus from Craterhoof Behemoth would ultimately be. So
Florian here is considering countering with a rewind that Mulch, and he is going to do that. Mulch gets rewound.
And that's going to add yet another instant or sorcery to his graveyard for that Rune Chanter's Pike. It's a pretty good rewind there as well, because we know that Brad is looking for a few lands.
Yeah.
Although it does feel inevitable that he will get them.
Not exactly sure why Florian wanted to counter that Mulch, but
maybe he doesn't want to get hoofed.
I mean, maybe he's afraid of it milling an Imperial Rights or something similar.
And he doesn't have a way to interact with that. Yeah. All right, so Brad's just going to attack him for 2. And Florian now has to decide if he wants to start using some of his unsummons. He's got 2 of them in hand.
Well, he is going to use Morlin Haunt to get a Spirit Token to block one of Brad's Spirit Tokens. So Florian will go to 13 life. Brad not attacking in with any of his ground guys. No reason to throw one of them away to the Augur of Bolas, plus Rune Chanter's Pike, and have the chance of losing on the following turn. So Brad flashes back another Lingering Souls and a Tracker's Instinct. That one's going to resolve, netting Brad Thragtusk. And gosh, Brad's hand is stacked. It's got Lingering Souls, Thragtusk, and 2 Craterhoof Behemoths.
Yeah, that is a ridiculous hand. He's still sitting on 7 mana here. He needs 1 more to be able to to resolve the Craterhoof Behemoth. If he does, that's the kind of power level card that can often just win you the game the turn that it comes down.
So, another Spirit's going to come down for Florian. He's going to re-equip the Spirit with the Rune Chanter's Pike, and you couldn't see Brad untap any quicker, hoping to draw land to just hoof Florian. He drew a Grizzly Salvage, not a land, but he is going to cast that Grizzly Salvage. Revealing a couple lands. He's going to take the Woodland Cemetery. Put that into play. Cast Thragtusk. Uncounterable Thragtusk. Gaining 5 more life, going up to 30. Look at Brad Nelson's board. Even if Florian has a Supreme Verdict here, he's going to end it.
Yeah, this is interesting. I mean, it looks like Brad's just been able to just build up enough of a board on his own, like Craterhoof Behemoth aside.
Yeah, I mean...
You know, like, he's able to just put up enough pressure just through the normal sort of flashing back of Lingering Souls and casting of Thragtusks as normal.
Yeah.
So that, like, it's interesting that if this game was revolving around a board sweeper, like Supreme Verdict, it's like Brad is kind of just doesn't really care. Like he can just build up his board at will and just put enough pressure on Florian, where Florian hasn't been able to put any pressure on Brad.
Very true, and that's one of the problems with this blue-white tempo decks. They've got very little ways to put pressure. The best card seems to be the Runechanter's Pike.
Yeah, now that's the second one there for Florian.
But still in no position to attack here.
Ray, it looks like the whole table could be. Do you see the top? Maybe tell Rashad. We see that there's a gap at the top of the screen, and it's cutting off some of the cards, so we're going to try to get that.
But there is 8 mana and Crater Hoof Behemoth. And that's the match.
He just extends the hand because that's what happens when somebody plays Crater Hoof Behemoth versus you.
When they've got all those creatures on the battlefield? Yeah, there's very little.
I'm curious. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Hold on. Let me check your math on that. Yep.
Yeah, it was lethal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious how much damage that would have been just out of curiosity. But that's the kind of thing that a card like Crater Hoof Behemoth can do. We were talking about this yesterday, Ben, about going over the top in some of these strategies. And, Brad's deck, as we saw, is pretty adept at just being a creature deck that can, pump out some big stuff and make a bunch of tokens and recover from wraths pretty quickly. But then he's got that huge